Hi, good morning. So today we could like to further continue about our ADAS model. So then for today we focus on starting on the aggregate supply. So what is exactly the aggregate supply is? Aggregate supply is the total purchasing power spends that shows the amount that the total market value of all local production produced by all firm inside the economy at all the general price level, keeping other factor being constant. And for this one, it is not the entire purchasing power plan, it should be entire production plan. So aggregate supply should be the entire production pans sourced among that the market value of all local productions that produced inside the economy by all firm at all price level. But in economics, we try to divide it into two major types of aggregate supply. The first one, we call it short-run aggregate supply. In macroeconomics, short run is not the same as the microeconomic short run. In microeconomic short run, we say that there is a fixed factor in production. But in macroeconomic short run, we really looking at time. That means in short run means that the time is so short that the firm cannot adjust the input price. That means the factor price. For example, the wages according to the change in the production price, the product price. So, for example, sometimes we have contract, sometimes we have a minimum wages law, so that it is not easy to adjust the wages of the workers and also the other factor price. So that's why it is so short time that we cannot adjust the input price easily according to the product price. For example, so when the price level of the final goods and services increase, however, in short term, in short run, the time is so short that the factor price will be kept constant due to the contract issue. So that's why in this moment, the price level of the product price increase will be more percentage than the wages increase percentage. This price, we call it input price. Okay, so that's why you see that the product price increase percentage more than the input price increase percentage. So from the point of view of the firms, they may think that they have higher profits. So that's why, so they will try to increase more aggregate supply for more profit. So that's why the supply curve, short run supply curve, is upward sloping. A short run aggregate supply curve is upward sloping. When the general price level goes up and the factor price keep no change or increase less than that, so that's why the firm may think that they will have higher profit. So that's why they will increase their aggregate supply there. So then the entire short run aggregate supply curve is upward sloping. So then we call such kinds of a reason imperfect adjustment between output and input price. On the other hand, for long run aggregate supply, that means basically the time is so long that the firm can adjust the input price, so the factor price, according to the product price level. So basically, for example, when the price level go up, so price level of the final goods and services go up, general price level go up, in the long run, so then the factors or the labor or the workers will ask for a higher salary because they will say that now the product price increase and the firm have more profit, and it is very difficult for them to survive if the firm does not increase their salary. So that's why they will fight for renew their contract. So that in this moment, the factor price or the input price will increase the same percentage as the product price. So the firm may think that when the product price increase with same percent with the factor price actually is regarded as the production cost of the firm. So that's why the firm will think that the profit will be constant. So there's no incentive for the firm to increase their production. So that's why when the general price level go up, so there's no incentive for them to increase the aggregate supply. So then the aggregate supply will be constant. So at the potential GDP, because time is so long that so all the resources and technology will be fully utilized. So that's why finally, so the firm will produce all the firms will produce at the potential GDP. So when the price level go up, so there's no change in the real GDP, which is concentrated, which is situated at the potential GDP. So then we say that the entire long run aggregate supply curve is vertical, And then we go back a little bit for the short run AS. So why when there is a product price increases, so and the factor price increase less than the percentage of the product price, why the profit will be higher? Because from the point of view of the firm, the factor price basically is the production cost from the point of view of the firm. So that's why when the product price increase and then the factor price increase, so as long as the factor price increase percentage is less than the product price increase percentage, then the firm may think that the cost increase percentage less than the revenue increase percentage. So that's why they will think that they're high profit. So that's why they will upward sloping aggregate supply curve. All right. So after we learn about, so the shape of the short run AS and long run AS, then we can go to what are the factors changing the aggregate supply did, and what are the factors change the entire short run AS and also entire long run AS. So first of all, if we talk about the movement along the AS curve, it must be because of the general price level of the final goods and services change. So in short runs, when the price level goes up, because of what we just mentioned about the imperfect adjustment between input price and output price, then the aggregate supply rate of the firm will be higher. So we have a movement along the short run AS curve. However, in the case of long runs, so when the general price level goes up, we still movement along the long run AS curve. So it's change in the aggregate supply rate, but basically there will be no change in the potential GDP. So due to what we say is the perfect adjustment between the factor price and also the output price. So these one change all the same percentage. So from the point of view of the firm, the profit is zero. It doesn't increase. That's why no change in the aggregate supply rate. So then what are the factors changing the short run AS curve? The first one is production cost. So when the production cost increase, so firm may think that they have a lower profit. That's why at all the general price level, they produce fewer aggregate supply rate. So short run AS shift to the left. However, when the production costs go down, the short run AS will shift to the right. And one more thing related to the short run, the production cost is, it is maybe the example of wages, maybe the oil price. So oil price is very key, example of the production cost, because most of the production in the society which is rely on oil. And then the other one is the temporary supply stock, for example bad weather, for example the potax, typhoon. So all will shift the short run AS to the left, and the other thing will shift the short run AS to the right, like the good weather. So another example is the labor potax. So like they will just 罷工 罷工咁咧 so then the short run AS will shift to the left, but this will only affect in the short term. And the other thing is expectation of the price level by firms. If the firm think that in the future the price level will go up, now they will produce fewer, shift to the left, and vice versa. And the other very important key is the government policy. If there's indirect tax, so then the entire short run AS curve will shift to the left. However, it is not salary tax, So bear in mind, so it is not the same as salary tax. For salary tax, it will change the C, as we mentioned before. So it is change the C, so that change the AD, but not change the short run AS. So only when there is an indirect tax, or sometimes we say that sales tax, then it will move the short run AS. So however, if it's salary tax, then you move the AD. The other factor change the short run AS is the subsidy to the firm. So what kinds of subsidy? We call it production subsidy. So if the firm have more production subsidy, then the entire short run AS curve will shift to the right, and then with less subsidy will shift to the left. So what are the factors change the long run AS? Now basically, when the long run AS change, then at the same time, it will also change, okay, the short run AS. Because when the long run AS they change, that means in a short time, the short run AS will also move. So that's why there is fact whenever the factor change the long run AS, then the short run AS will also shift altogether. So that's why in this we can also write down one more factors that will move the short run AS, which is the fifth factors is when the change in the long run AS, then the short run AS will also move in the same directions. So but what are the factors changing the long run AS? As we just mentioned, the potential GDP or the full employment GDP is the GDP when all resources and technologies are fully used or utilized. So that's why only when the number of resources change, the quantity of resources change, or the quality of resources. Quality of resources like what? Like the productivity. Okay. So we only when the quantity of resources or the quality of resources change, then the long run AS will move to the right or to the left, corresponding to the change in these two. And the other thing is the technologies. Technology will also move the entire long run AS to the right, to the left, and the efficiency in production. So, and then another example will be if the government try to lower the tax on research and development, then more firms will just spend more money on doing research and development, so that the technology and production efficiency of the firm will be highest. So long run AS shift to rise. If the government improves G on education, that means the quality of all the resources will be better. So then long run AS will also shift to the rise. So any questions? So then there are some remarks that I would just want to highlight here. So when we say that Y equal to Y full employment GDP or potential GDP, it does not mean that the unemployment rate is zero. So because there's still natural unemployment rate. So some of the unemployment is voluntarily done by the workers. So in this case, we still have a very little amount of unemployment rate, which is the voluntary unemployment. And so the second remark is that when the sales tax change, it will change the short run AS. When the profit tax change, it will change AD and change I. When the salary tax change, it will change the disposable income, affect C and affect AD. So when there is transfer payments, so it is affect the disposable income of the citizen, affect C, affect AD. But when we have G, government spending on some education, on the civil servant salary, then will change the AD directly. G affect AD. But if the government subsidy to the firm, then it will shift the short run AS. So bear in mind. And the factor change in long run AS must change the short run AS altogether. So and then one very important reminder is that for some factors, so they may change the long run AS, short run AS, and AD altogether. For example, if the government spend more on education, then G increase, AD increases. And at the same time, it will increase the quality of the factors, like the human beings, so they have better quality, productivity. So that's why the whole long run AS and the short run AS will both increase. So that's why, so entire curve will be changing this way. So AD, short run AS, long run AS will both shift to the rise. Okay, and then another example is the government reduce the public tax for R&D. So then the I will go up, AD will go up. When we have better technology because of R&D, So that's why the overall long 1AS and short 1AS will also shift to right. So we'll shift like this way. So and then in economics, so what will be the starting points of an economy? So basically it is the real GDP here, and this is the price level. If the question does not mention anything, so basically, so we all start at the intersection point here. So that means this is the always the first equilibrium price level, and this is always the first equilibrium real GDP, and which is equal to the potential GDP at the very beginning. So then we will see a lot of change in AD, short 1AS, and long 1AS. So it will affect this equilibrium point. So then it will say you will easily analysis when some other factor change, maybe change AD, short 1AS, long 1AS. Then it will easily look at what happened to the price level and real GDP next. All right. So then we just look at the equilibrium, short run equilibrium, or sometimes we call it long run equilibrium. So we go to the long run equilibrium first. For long run equilibrium, that means it's intersection point between the long 1AS and AD. So it is the long run equilibrium. We always start from long run equilibrium if the question does not mention anything special. So that's why it is the original situations. However, in short runs, so there will be the talking about short run equilibrium, meaning that it is the intersection between the short 1AS and also AD. So the example, we have three different cases. First of all, it is at equilibrium. Normally, it's the start of the question, as I mentioned. So AD intersect with short 1AS, which is on the long 1AS curve. So we start at the beginning of the question. However, in short run equilibrium can also be like this. So this is the equilibrium point. And then it is the case maybe because of the AD decreases or the short 1AS decreases, making the intersection point between the AD and short 1AS is less than the long 1AS. So this one is the equilibrium output real GDP, and this is potential GDP. And if it really have this case, so normally, so we call this difference between the difference between the Y potential GDP and the equilibrium GDP. We call it as resectionary gap. When the equilibrium GDP lower than the potential GDP, we call it resectionary gap or deflationary gap. Under what situations? Then we will talk about these kinds of, we will start from this short run equilibrium, is when the question say that it is under high unemployment or the economy is under high recession. Then the starting point is not here. The starting point will be start from here. Okay, that means that we have a deflationary gap first. Then what happened next? Whenever there is deflationary gap, that means the recession. There is a recession in the economy. When there is recession in the economy, that means the production cost or the factor price will drop in the future. So it is a normal situations. Okay, when there's recession, nobody employ resources, and then the demand for resources go down. So the factor price, that means that nobody employ the workers, so the workers' salary will be lower, so the production cost of firm will be lower in the future. Another situation, we call it inflationary gap, just vice versa as the deflationary gap. This is the situation that when the AD and short 1AS, the intersection in the point that the equilibrium GDP higher than the potential GDP. So the difference between the equilibrium GDP and the potential GDP, we call it as the inflationary gaps. So when the question say that now we have hyperinflation or now we have overheating of the economy, then we will start the whole diagram from here instead of this. Okay, we start from here instead of this. Okay, and then so you will see that what is the implication behind when there is an inflation gap in the future. So we have economic growth, but we have overheating economies. So that's why in the futures, so there will be a hyperinflation and also because and hyper over booming of the economy, so the firm will demand for very more higher amounts of the factors. So the factor price will go up, the wages will go up. So the factor price go up, that means the production cost in the future will be higher. So that's why, okay, so the production cost will be very high in the futures. Okay. So then let's move to, okay, the next part is, so if we talk about if in the short run, as I say that short run we can have a inflationary gap or deflationary gap, or the long, just like the same as the long run equilibrium free situation. So however, in the long run, we always go back to equilibrium like free curve intersect together. So then in the next section, we try to talk about how under deflationary gap or inflationary gap, how the self-adjust mechanism through the market force can bring the deflationary gap and inflationary gap back to long run equilibrium. So let's check it out. So if it's under deflationary gap in short runs, so what will happen next? If there's deflationary gaps, so that means in the long run, there is a deflation gap, equilibrium GDP smaller than potential GDP. So that means, so after that, there will be a excess supply of factors. Okay, nobody want to supply factors. I'm sorry, nobody want to demand for factors. So that's why there will be excess supply of factors. So automatically in the market, the factor price will go down. For example, we talk about the factor price will go down. So for example, the wages will go down. Okay, so because now there is excess supply of factors, so the factor price will go down, wages go down. That means the production cost will drop, and then the short run AS will shift to the right. As we say that production cost will affect the short run AS. When the production costs go down, then the short run AS curve will shift to right, making the price will go down, and Y always go back to the potential GDP. How about in the case of the inflationary gap? When there's inflationary gap in the long run, if there's an inflation gap, equilibrium GDP greater than the potential GDP, then there will be excess demands of factors. Okay, so there will be very high demand for factors because the firm want to produce more. Okay, so then in this case, the production cost, just like the factor price, will go up. Okay, so just like the resources price will go up or the labor prices go up, so the production cost of firm will be higher, and then the short run AS will shift to the left. Then the price level will further go up, and Y will go back to the potential GDP. Now, all this mechanism basically is a market adjustment. So we need time to adjust, okay, and then so the government actually do nothing. So we just adjust by the free market. So then always the Y will go back to the potential GDP, and finally the free curve will intersect at the same point. All right. Now, in the following is some example to demonstrate how this mechanism work. In economics, so we always say that there is something happens, and then how does it affect the economy in the short run and long run? So we always say that something happens. How does it affect the economy in the short run and long run? So something happens. How does it affect the economy in the short run and the long run as well? Okay, so we'll talk about it in the next sections. Okay, so it is talk about how the economy change affects the economy in the short run and also in the long run. Okay, so see you guys. We'll talk about it next lesson. Bye bye.